Hello, everyone. Tonight we are walking barefoot across scorched stone. The ground beneath you pulses with a deep, ancient heat. Not fire, but the kind of sun-baked memory that makes shadows curl at the edges. In the far distance, something rises out of the haze. At first, you think it's a torn tent or maybe the remains of a sailboat stranded in the desert. But it moves. Slowly, deliberately, and the shape that's not cloth, that's bone. The creature in front of you towers without needing to be tall. It's low to the ground, thick-legged, its spine arching into the air like a warped ribcage turned inside out. A sail, they called it. Not a real sail, but an extension of vertebrae, each spine elongated and webbed with skin standing proud like a page waiting to burn. You probably won't survive this. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you really like what I do here. I'm not asking you to sail into the sun, but you know close enough. Let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is there. Are you sweating too, or is that just me? Now, turn off the lights. Maybe turn on the fan for some soothing noise, and let's get started tonight. You shuffle along a dry riverbed where even the shadows are brittle. Every step kicks up flakes of sun-bleached clay, and the ground sounds hollow like it remembers water but isn't ready to forgive. The creature ahead of you, Dimetrodon, or something close to it, doesn't look back. Not because it doesn't care, but because it's doing something older than curiosity. It's performing its ritual. Its sail faces due east. The early light hasn't even touched the soil yet, but already that massive spinal crest is catching orange rays, soaking them in like an ancient biological solar panel. You can hear it crackle almost imperceptibly, and it doesn't flinch. The heat here doesn't rise like in modern deserts, it descends. By 8 a.m., the sky has already gone metallic. No clouds, no breeze, just the steady radiation of an uncaring sun. The creature shifts its stance, spreading its limbs slightly, opening its chest cavity as if it's inviting something to enter. You don't know whether it's worship or weaponry. Scientists once thought the sail was purely for thermoregulation. Warm up quicker in the morning, cool down at night. Elegant. But then again, this is the kind of logic humans like. A neat explanation, symmetrical. Nature doesn't always do neat. Historians still debate whether the sail was really for temperature control or if it was just prehistoric peacocking. Display, mating, intimidation. Some even think it was used like a radiator to dissipate excess heat rather than collect it. Irony, cooking yourself in the sun so you don't overheat. You inch closer. The dinosaur, though, technically not a dinosaur at all, more of a proto-mammal, but let's not get hung up on labels, tilts its body just enough to shift the angle of its sail. It's aligning itself with mathematical precision, like a sundial that decided to walk around, and in doing so, it turns its back to you as if daring you to follow. One of its eyes lidless and cloudy, like amber tracks something invisible across the sky. You imagine it's measuring the warmth like a chef testing a pan before cracking in an egg, which in this case might be itself. By now, the air is shimmering. You squint and the creature becomes a ripple in the landscape. You're not sure if you're sweating or hallucinating, but either way, your shirt sticks to your spine and your lips taste like chalk. Here's a weird fact to cool you down. Snails can sleep for 3 years, just drop into a coma and ignore the world. You wish you could do that now. Instead, you're watching a sail-backed lizard cook itself alive on purpose. There's a smell, not rot exactly, but something acrid like copper mixed with damp leather. The creature flexes. You see the muscles tense just under the skin, a fine tremble as it holds the pose. This isn't passive warming. This is active devotion. A solar yoga stretch from 290 million years ago. The bones supporting the sail. Hollow but strong, like scaffolding from a half-finished cathedral. The skin stretched across them has an oily sheen to it, maybe some kind of prehistoric melanin that protects it from incineration. Maybe not. Maybe it's just extra crispy. You wonder why it hasn't moved on. why it hasn't gone to drink from the mirage pool just a mile ahead. But then again, the mirage might be lying, and the creature it's trusting something older than instinct. Some fossilized wisdom passed down from ancestors who learned the sun gives life only if you give it time. You crouch and the ground burns your fingertips. Even the dirt here is angry. You don't belong. And the sailback, it's still not looking at you, still hasn't acknowledged you. But there's no way it hasn't noticed. You're the loudest thing in this desert besides the sun. Somewhere behind you, a chorus of cicada-like clicks begins. Not insects, though, not in this timeline. Maybe it's the ground itself cracking open. Maybe it's warning you, or laughing. The sail creature finally shifts again, its toes curling into the crust tail dragging like an anchor. It begins to walk, but only a few steps. Enough to realign, reposition, adjust to the sun's new angle. You think of those rotating solar farms out west, the kind that follow the sun's journey across the sky with robotic precision. This isn't that different, just smellier. A vulture-shaped shadow passes overhead. You flinch. The sailback doesn't. That's the kind of confidence that comes from either knowing you're not worth the trouble or that you are the trouble. Still, it doesn't blink. Still, the heat rises. Still, you're the only one questioning whether any of this makes sense. You wipe the sweat from your brow with the back of your hand, only to smear it further into your skin. The salt stings your eyes, but not enough to distract you from the slow, deliberate choreography happening just ahead. The sailback turns again, no panic, no urgency, just a kind of prehistoric grace. It adjusts the angle of its enormous spine fan, like someone repositioning a beach umbrella if that umbrella were 50 degrees too ambitious and weighed a ton. The creature's sail tilts until it forms a near-perfect perpendicular to the sun's ascent. It's not standing still, it's performing. The spines catch the light at an angle that turns them translucent like giant stained glass windows set into a lizard's back. You can almost see the vascular network glowing red underneath. It's both beautiful and slightly horrifying, like a candle that knows it's melting. Dimetrodon. Though again, not technically a dinosaur, knows exactly what it's doing. It's using the sun like an ignition switch. Not just to warm up, but to jumpstart its metabolism. Cold-blooded creatures don't get to hit the ground running. They need time patience and direct exposure. And here's your fun, authoritative historical fact for the day. Scientists believe the sail helped Dimetrodon become active earlier in the morning than its competitors. Early reptile gets the worm and all that. But here's the awkward part. The sail also turns it into a giant target. You ever wave a flag around in lion country? Neither has Dimetrodon. Yet it seems weirdly fine with the risk. You crouch behind a dead log which crumbles like a pastry when you lean against it. The air has stopped moving. Even your breath feels heavier than it should. And still the creature basks, a living thermometer, a walking sundial, with legs that creak audibly when it shifts weight. Historians still debate whether that sail was used purely for thermoregulation or also as a social display, something that screamed, "Look at me, I'm warmer and more eligible than you." The problem: evolution doesn't write instruction manuals. All we've got are bones, and bones don't explain intent. Maybe it was sexy. Maybe it was just practical. Maybe it was both. Nature has range. You watch as the creature leans into the wind, or what should be wind. A slight current picks up from the south, but instead of cooling the area, it feels like someone's opened a hairdryer pointed directly at your face. The Dimetrodon seems to approve. It shifts its stance again. Its toes dig in. The sail quivers ever so slightly. There's something theatrical about it, like it's waiting for applause. You're starting to notice a pattern. It rises, early positions the sail to face the sun head-on, then makes micro-adjustments as the light changes. Not too different from someone adjusting a solar panel to keep the angle efficient. That's the word that keeps ringing in your head: efficient. Nature's great at that, even when it's being weird. You think about modern reptiles like Komodo dragons that sprawl out in the morning and absorb heat before they can hunt. Now, picture that on stilts with a billboard strapped to its back. Efficiency through absurdity. And here's your odd fact of the day. The sail's vertebrae were likely filled with blood vessels, which means as sunlight hit the membrane, warm blood circulated through the sail, heating the body faster than the surrounding environment, like internal central heating. So yes, it really was cooking itself, just carefully. But you have to wonder, what's the limit? How hot is too hot before the whole system backfires? The air is now so thick it feels personal. You swear you can hear moisture leaving your own skin. Every exposed surface tingles, not in the pleasant way, but like your pores are reconsidering their career choices. You glance back toward the shaded rocks you passed an hour ago, already distant mirages. The sailback doesn't even seem to consider shade an option. It's committed. And then a flicker. The creature suddenly snaps its head. Around, not at you, but towards something else. Movement on the ridge. A smaller, lithe shape moving through the heat waves. Another animal. Shorter, more agile, and without a sail. Probably a predator. Maybe one of the early therapsids. Fast, sharp-toothed sun-hating. But it doesn't attack. It circles. Observes. As if it too is trying to figure out whether this thing is food or fire hazard. You imagine the inner monologue of that little predator. Do I really want to bite the thing that looks like it's been on a grill since sunrise? Apparently not. It slinks away, fading back into the shimmering distance. The sailback resumes its ritual. No fight, no flight, just radiance. You're starting to get it now. This thing doesn't need to run. It's betting on the physics of heat transfer, not brute force. Why waste energy when the sun can do your flexing for you? A sudden gust hits and you duck instinctively, but the creature stands firm. The gust dies instantly. It's like the desert itself has given up trying to interfere. You check your pulse. It's too fast for the amount of movement you've done. But then again, just being here feels like exercise. You look again at the sail. What started out as intimidating now seems almost noble. It's working. You can see it working. Blood warming, muscles twitching, life accelerating in slow motion. You wonder how many of these creatures cook themselves too long. How many misjudged the sun and tipped from alive to toasted. And did they know even a little that they were pushing the limits? The sailback moves again, this time taking more than a few steps. It begins to follow the arc of the sun, mirroring its ascent, its head low, tail dragging sail, tilting like a mast adjusting to celestial wind. And you poor, sweaty followers stumble after it. Not because you want to, but because something about this ancient sun worshipper makes you believe it knows where it's going. The sun is higher now, an overripe peach splitting in the sky. Light doesn't just shine, it smears, it invades. Every rock reflects it. Every bone-white tree stump radiates it. Your shadow is the only dark thing left, and even it's starting to waver like it's losing faith in you. The sailback moves with the steady confidence of something that's never questioned its purpose. You, on the other hand, are starting to wonder why you didn't just stay in the shadow of that fossilized log. It leads you across the slope where the earth has cracked in long, lazy spirals. Old lava flows. Maybe, or maybe the desert just got tired of being flat. Either way, the ground here looks like someone tried to peel the planet and gave up halfway. The creature pauses again. Not for rest, it doesn't seem to need that. It just stops, lifts its head, and turns slightly. Adjusts. You're beginning to appreciate its strange sense of timing. Everything it does is dictated by the sun. Not just when to move, but how. This time, though, something's different. There's tension in the air. The kind that crackles invisibly behind your ears. And you're not the only one who feels it. Far off to the left, a faint rumble. Nothing dramatic, more like the sound of large footsteps, smothered by distance and heat. Then again, out here sound travels weirdly. It feels both too far and too close. The sailback shifts its weight. For the first time since you began following it, seems alert. From behind a distant ridge, something emerges, taller, stockier, armored in ways the sailback isn't. Plates rise along its back in a slow crescendo like an ancient xylophone waiting to be played. It's a stegosaurus or something close. And it's not alone. A small herd follows behind, each stepping in rhythm with the one ahead. There's a solemnity to it like a procession. You half expect chanting. They don't approach the sailback directly. Instead, they fan out, grazing lazily, though nothing seems edible. A kind of wide semicircle, keeping their distance but keeping him in view. The sailback lifts its head, higher tail slowly, curling like a question mark. Then it lowers itself onto its haunches, still facing the sun, still exposing the sail. And here's your authoritative historical fact. Dimetrodon and Stegosaurus never lived at the same time. They're separated by about 80 million years. You're witnessing a prehistoric jam session that never happened. But hey, it's your dream. Let it play out. Historians still debate whether large herbivores had any social reaction to non-predatory carnivores. Did they size them up? Did they even notice them? In this case, they notice. Oh, they definitely notice. One young stegosaur, a gangly juvenile with spikes a little too sharp for its body, steps forward and snorts loudly. Not at you, at the sailback. It makes a half-hearted stomp with one foot, more like a child testing a trampoline than a challenge. The sailback doesn't move. You know that feeling when you're in a room and someone walks in who's clearly on another frequency? That's the vibe. The herd watches. No one eats. No one leaves. It's as if they're waiting for something to happen. You crouch behind a chunk of petrified wood, partly to hide, partly because standing feels optional now. You watch the way the light hits the sail, casting long lines across the desert floor like prison bars. You're not sure who's caged. The stegosaur herd eventually begins to move again, drifting not toward the sailback but around it, as if avoiding stepping on something sacred. They keep their eyes on it. It keeps its eyes on the sun. And then, the weirdest thing, the juvenile lets out a long, low whine and sits down. Right there, like a weird, spiky dog copying a trick. And then another follows. Then another. Until you've got a half circle of sunlit plates and one lone sail in the center, everyone basking like students watching a very patient, very ancient teacher. And here's your odd fact of the day. Crocodiles will sometimes rest with their mouths open in the sun, not for intimidation, but to regulate temperature. Nature's full of strange thermodynamics that look like attitude. Maybe this is the same. Still, you can't shake the feeling that something ceremonial is happening. The sailback isn't aggressive, but it's not passive either. It's present, like it knows this moment is about more than warmth. Eventually, the herd begins to move again, slow and steady. The juvenile lingers a little longer, glancing over its shoulder, then trots off to rejoin the others with a nervous flick of its tail. And the sailback. It finally stands again. Not triumphant, not victorious, just warm. You chuckle under your breath. A reptile sun priest who accidentally became a myth. The breeze returns dry but real this time. It carries dust and something else. Not the usual scorched rock smell, but something deeper, like cracked amber or warm iron. You realize the heat's not just in the air, it's in everything. The rocks, the bones, even your teeth. The sailback turns slightly, following the herd with its gaze. Then it turns back to the sun. Because the sun is still rising, and it hasn't finished yet. The sailback walks on and you follow, even though your legs feel like boiled rope. The stegosaur herd fades into the haze behind you. Their heavy steps muffled by distance and the sound of your own heartbeat in your ears. You don't know if that was a moment of respect, curiosity, or just prehistoric loitering, but it lingers in your mind like smoke. Ahead, the earth flattens into a pale, cracked plain where the ground looks less like soil and more like dried skin. The creature's footsteps leave shallow prints, long toes splayed like it's trying not to sink. Though nothing here is soft. You try to step where it steps, partly to conserve energy, partly because those prints feel like breadcrumbs through a very weird fairy tale. Then a sound barely there. A series of faint thuds, rhythmic but wrong. You turn your head and freeze. A line of armored bodies has risen from the other side of the plane. Not sailbacks, not stegosaurs. These are smaller, lower, and moving with strange synchronicity. You squint. Ankylosaurs. Maybe, but no clubs, and definitely too graceful. Their backs are covered in bony plates like someone took a pile of crockery and glued it to a lizard. They move like they've heard secrets you haven't. They spread out in a loose cluster, but they're not grazing. They're watching, and not you. The sailback. It pauses, then slows. Doesn't stop, just lets its stride stretch a little longer like it's buying time. You realize the space between them is deliberate. Not territorial, not hostile. Something else. The closest of the plated ones lets out a low, sustained huff, a vocalization that's more suggestion than threat. The sailback responds by lowering its head slightly, not in submission, more like a nod. Then it angles its sail toward them. Just slightly, just enough for the sunlight to catch it and cast a flicker of light across their bony hides. You blink. Then it happens again. A ripple of light like a signal. Not Morse code, obviously, but something patterned, something purposeful. A prehistoric flashbulb. The armored watchers twitch, some shift, some don't. The lead one, larger, duller in color, snorts and steps forward. The moment is absurd and mesmerizing. A conversation without words. A creature with a sail that shines and others built like walking shields, exchanging glances like old friends with baggage. You remember how some lizards today bob their heads or do push-ups to signal each other? This is that on a cosmic scale. Historians still debate whether prehistoric animals had complex social signals beyond body language. Were they expressive? Did they bluff? Seduce gossip with posture and shadow? Or are we just projecting Netflix drama onto bones? Whatever the truth, you're watching something layered. The armored watchers eventually start moving again, still not approaching, but no longer tense. The lead one makes a wide arc around the sailback and the others follow, not random. A pattern, a ritual of avoidance and acknowledgement. One of them even makes a soft, almost wet squeak as it passes like a balloon deflating politely. You nearly laugh. It feels like a compliment. Your odd fact of the day. The back armor on some ankylosaur relatives may have helped dissipate heat like walking HVAC systems. Not so different from our sail friend, just reversed. Thermal deflection instead of absorption. Nature gives everyone their own gadget. As the armored herd disappears over a gentle slope, the sailback resumes walking. This time slower, like the encounter took something out of it. Or maybe it gave something away. You wonder what they think of it, this sun-drenched sentinel who never hides. Maybe it's an old legend. Maybe they call it the hot prophet or the toasted fool. Or maybe they don't call it anything. Maybe it just is. Your lips are cracked now. Your canteen's been empty for hours, though you shake it anyway because that's what desperate people do. Still, you follow. The landscape becomes jagged again, boulders and twisted roots like a half-forgotten graveyard. And that's when you hear it. Voices, not real ones, just little tickles of sound, echoes, whispers of heat against stone. The kind of sound that makes you pause and check behind you, even when you know there's nothing there. The sailback doesn't pause. It climbs over a rock like it's done this route 1,000 times. Maybe it has. Maybe this path is carved into its bones. You scramble after it, your feet slipping on warm, flaky sediment. And then you reach the top and freeze. Before you lies a kind of natural amphitheater. Wide, shallow, lined with boulders shaped like molars. At the far end, buried half in the rock, is a skeleton. Another sailback, much larger, or at least it was. Its bones curve upward like they're trying to stand again. The sail spines are still intact, arching like a broken fan. You glance at the sailback beside you. It stares unmoving. Not mourning, not frightened, just remembering. You crouch. feeling the residual heat seeping out of the rocks. The skeleton is fused to the ground, melted in place maybe, or fossilized while still hot. Which brings us to today's historical tidbit. Fossils aren't just bones, they're memories of pressure and heat. Sometimes the bones dissolve and the rock takes their place like a perfect mold. Sometimes what you're looking at isn't the creature at all, but the space where it used to be. You imagine this sailback watching a friend or rival stand too long in the sun. Not move, not cool off, just stay. Until staying became a sentence. And still it comes here. Not out of guilt maybe, just out of habit. Like someone visiting a bench where a conversation used to happen. You sit beside it ignoring the burn beneath your legs. The silence settles again. Heavy. Honest. Eventually it turns and walks away, not looking back. You follow, because now you're invested in whatever it's chasing, or running from, or honoring. Whatever it is, the heat isn't done yet. You're walking into the place where the wind forgets itself. A place where air moves but doesn't help. It curls around your neck like a whisper from a dying stove, carrying heat, not relief. The sailback leads the way, but even it seems reluctant now, it steps slower, its tail dragging just a bit longer behind. The ground has changed again. It no longer cracks and flakes. Now it's smoother, more polished. Glassy in places. You bend down to touch it and jerk your fingers back. Hot. Too hot. The kind of heat that's not just from above, it's coming from beneath too. This is the place where the breeze lies to you. Your skin says cooler, but your nerves say careful. Every time the wind brushes past, your brain lights up with confused signals. It feels like someone's exhaling on your face after drinking tea that's just a little too warm. You look up to check on the sailback and freeze. Its sail is twitching. Not a lot. Not panicked. Just responding. Subtle pulses ripple through it like a taut flag with secrets. The skin between the elongated vertebrae shivers in little waves. It's not wind, and it's not nerves. It's listening. You blink sweat out of your eyes. Can a sail feel? Is it reacting to pressure, to temperature gradients, to sound? Historians still debate whether the sails on these ancient creatures were just for heating, or if they had other sensory functions like thermoreceptors or even early barometers. What if the sailback could hear shifts in temperature the way you hear a change in a song's key? The sail tilts slightly again, toward the west this time. The creature pauses, raises its head. You realize it's not looking for prey, it's looking for something else. A sign. Suddenly the wind picks up sharp, purposeful, and louder this time. And then it stops, like a held breath. You get the distinct, uncomfortable sense that this place knows you're here. You crouch behind a dark, craggy boulder. It smells like scorched bone and bitter dust. The kind of place where even plants thought twice before existing. That breeze returns. Different again. Carries with it a sound. Faint, low, almost like whispering, but stretched. The way radio static sometimes almost sounds like a voice if you're alone long enough. The sailback doesn't move. Its eyes stay half-lidded, but its body is tight alert. Not in fear, in preparation. And now it turns. Not entirely. Just one deliberate step to the side. A repositioning. Its sail catches the sun again, but from a strange angle now. More sidelit than before, like it's showing only part of itself. And then the smell hits you. Sulfur. Faint, but real. Underneath the dust and heat and ancient earth, something rotten and sharp. Something that doesn't belong to the surface. You realize this land isn't just hot, it's alive underneath. Maybe volcanic vents. Maybe just trapped heat from a deeper wound in the planet. Either way, the sailback came here on purpose. Because it knows. It begins circling a particular patch of ground. Not pacing, this is deliberate. Like a dance. Its toes avoid certain spots. It sniffs the air, lifts its head. And its sail still twitching. Faster now, reacting to changes you can't see. This isn't just thermoregulation anymore. This is navigation. You have your odd fact of the day. Bees can sense electric fields with the tiny hairs on their bodies. Imagine that, but scaled up. A living sail that detects hot spots like a weather vane with a pulse. The creature lowers itself again, this time onto one forelimb. It presses part of its body against the earth. The sail angles lower, catching less light but more air. It's scanning. You back away slowly, not wanting to disturb the moment, but also feeling like you've stumbled into a sacred ritual or a science experiment with no safety gloves. The ground makes a low groaning sound. No tremor, just a noise. A deep echo like the earth remembering something it's not supposed to say out loud. The sailback lifts its head sharply, and you realize this isn't the wind lying to you, it's the ground. The sailback rises suddenly, posture rigid, and strides forward with unexpected urgency. You stumble to follow. Its sail quivers with more intensity now, but not violently. More like it's decoding, adjusting, reading. A gust of wind nearly knocks you sideways. You brace yourself, but the creature just tilts its sail again, smooth, practiced, precise. It's like a weather vane and a shield and a radar dish. And now you're sweating for a different reason. What if this creature isn't just using the sun for heat? What if it's mapping the environment? Listening to pressure changes. Reading the whispers of ancient tectonic fault lines, like a prophet licking the edge of a burned page. The sailback suddenly stops again. A long pause. Then it exhales sharply, almost a cough, and it turns its sail to face you. For the first time. Not sideways. Directly at you. It doesn't blink. It just aims. The wind slams into you. Hard, but not random. It's funneling along the sail's edges, directed somehow like a trick of topography and ancient design. The airflow rushes around you, past you, through you. Then silence. The creature turns away and continues walking, as if it was checking something, as if you were the thing being tested. And you failed or passed, you don't know which. All you know is the wind is done lying for now. And the sailback? It just learned something it won't tell you. You're not sure how long you've been following the sailback now. Time has lost its usual rhythm. Sunrise stretched into a molten plateau, and your internal clock melted somewhere back around section 3. But the creature doesn't seem tired. It doesn't slow, doesn't stumble, doesn't complain. You, however, are one shade short of medium well. The landscape has shifted again. The glassy flatness gives way to rougher ground, craggy, pocked with shallow basins and rock ledges that look like the backs of ancient sleeping turtles. The sailback weaves through them like it's done this route 100 times. Maybe it has. Maybe this isn't its territory, it's its pilgrimage. You crest a low ridge and spot movement below, a blur between shadows, smaller, quicker. At first you think it's another lizard. Then you see the eyes, sharp, predatory, focused. A different kind of reptile, now lower to the ground, maybe 5 feet long, mottled hide, long snout, full of needle teeth. A predator for sure. It circles low and slow like a dog deciding whether to bite the mailman or just insult his posture. The sailback doesn't react. The little hunter stays just outside of striking range, keeping its movements smooth, its intentions unreadable. It's the kind of creature that gets by on patience, not power. You freeze, holding your breath, expecting some kind of fight. But nothing happens. The hunter circles twice, then settles on a ledge and watches. You exhale because you realize something: it doesn't want to pounce. It wants to wait. Because the sailback, massive, slow sizzling under the sun, looks like it's preparing itself, like a meal warming in an oven. And here's your odd fact of the day. Komodo dragons can track dying prey by smell, sometimes following it for days, waiting for it to weaken. This isn't an ambush. This is a stakeout. The predator lies down. It yawns, teeth gleaming like thorns, but makes no move. It knows the heat will do the work. All it has to do is be patient. The sailback begins climbing a rock shelf, each step deliberate, the sail still twitching with every shift in the breeze. It stops at the top, perfectly positioned for full exposure, and just stands there, sail stretched, wide spine glowing slightly in the sun. The little predator shifts again, maybe repositioning for a better view, not a strike, a front row seat. And here comes your authoritative historical fact. Some scientists believe that large sail-backed reptiles, especially ones like Dimetrodon, risked overheating by remaining in the sun too long. Thermoregulation wasn't always a win. It could become a liability, especially when predators learned that hot blood means slow reflexes. So now you're watching a real-time gamble cook fast and move early, or cook too long and become dinner. You wonder if the sailback knows, if it senses the little predator watching from its ledge. It doesn't turn, it doesn't react. It simply lowers itself slightly, legs folding into a crouch, not submission, not sleep, just closer to the heat radiating off the stone. It wants more. You almost speak aloud. Some warning, some pointless human whisper. But the creature already knows. Its sail quivers with that same unreadable tension, like it's filtering the wind again. Measuring pressure sent heat, some prehistoric algorithm you can't begin to understand. The predator watches, eyes blinking lazily. Still no movement, but its tail flicks. Once, twice, like it's timing something. Maybe the sailback is prey, but not now. Not yet. Historians still debate whether predators in ancient ecosystems preferred freshly killed prey or simply waited for weaklings to succumb to the environment. Scavenging might have been safer than hunting, especially when the climate was brutal and thermoregulation could tip either way, survival or sudden collapse. You can almost see the equations playing out in the predator's brain. It's still too strong, but give it an hour, maybe two. Let the sun do the stabbing. The sailback finally exhales, and the sound is like opening a furnace door. Not a breath more, like a venting of steam. A plume of dust rises from beneath it, then settles again. It's not dead, not dying, but it's clearly risking something. You crouch, realizing this might be the whole strategy to bake enough to win the day. But not so much that you become the day's leftovers. And then, out of nowhere, a burst of movement. The little predator darts down from its ledge, fast and low. Your heart leaps. But it doesn't attack. It stops 15 feet away, sniffing the air, studying the sail. Its tongue flicks, testing for something invisible to you. The sailback doesn't even blink. And after a long moment, the predator just turns and leaves. You're stunned. You want to ask it why not. What did you smell? What did the wind say? But the answer is written on the sailback's back. The heat isn't weakness. Not yet. It's a weapon, a warning, a trick. And the predator, smart enough to survive, recognized it for what it was. Too soon. As the creature disappears into the rocks, the wind shifts again, blowing across the exposed stone, and you smell something new. Something sharp, like the edge of rain. Not hope, just change. The sailback finally lifts itself from its crouch and moves again. Slower, heavier, but purposeful. Still alive, still cooking, and still not running. The sun isn't just overhead now, it's everywhere. No shadows, no relief, just a flat, crushing light that turns the world into a white-hot oven. You squint into the glare, your eyes watering, your tongue thick in your mouth, like it's trying to hide from the heat. You've stopped sweating. That's not a good sign. The sailback walks ahead, wobbling slightly, its movements less deliberate than before. It's not collapsing, but it's also not gliding like it used to. There's a sluggishness now, like the heat is catching up. You think about those solar-powered calculators that glitch when the light gets too intense. Maybe it's the same for prehistoric biology. Then the ground changes again. It begins as a shimmer, just a flicker in the distance, but as you approach, the shimmer becomes ripples, and the ripples become thick, bubbling mud. Not cool, healing spa mud. This stuff looks like it belongs in the stomach of a volcano. Dark, viscous, steaming from a dozen hairline cracks in the rock. And the sailback, it walks straight into it. You blink in disbelief, shielding your face with one hand. The creature doesn't pause, doesn't sniff, doesn't test the temperature like a cautious bather. It strides directly into the scalding pool until its legs disappear up to the shoulders, and then it lowers its body with a heavy sigh. The sail remains upright, a blackened, glistening fan above the bubbling surface. You want to yell, "What are you doing?" But you know it wouldn't answer even if it could. Instead, you crouch on the edge of the pit, squinting through the heat distortion, watching this prehistoric spa day unfold. You think of hippos caking themselves in mud to keep cool, but this feels like a mistake. And yet, the creature isn't screaming. It's not thrashing. It's perfectly still. Maybe this isn't suicide. Maybe it's skincare. Your odd fact of the day: warthogs in modern Africa will roll in near boiling mud to rid themselves of parasites. They squeal, a little sure, but the results are effective. The sailback, much like a warthog with aspirations of grandeur, may be playing the same game: high-stakes hygiene in the most uncomfortable bath imaginable. The steam hisses and curls around the creature's sail. Tiny droplets collect and roll down the webbed skin, sizzling as they drip into the pool. The smell isn't great. Burned algae, old pennies, and a distinct note of something organic beginning to overcook. You gag once, then shuffle farther back. Still, the creature doesn't move. Not a twitch, not a sound, just those shallow, steady breaths. Historians still debate whether creatures like this actively sought out thermal springs or mud pits. Some fossil sites show sediment layers that could indicate ancient hotbeds of geothermal activity, but it's hard to say whether the animals came for comfort or perished by accident. You look at the sail again, bent slightly backward, shimmering in the heat. The tips are starting to curl, just a little, like parchment on fire's edge. Maybe it stayed too long. Maybe this was the one bad decision in an otherwise solar-powered day. Then again, maybe that's the point. You remember watching birds sunning themselves in your backyard, wings, splayed feathers, puffed, eyes closed. It looked ridiculous, but it served a purpose. Sunlight kills mites. It also feels good if you're the right temperature. The sailback shifts slightly in the mud. Its nostrils flare. Not panicking, just adjusting. A big boiling exhale. And here's your authoritative fact: modern reptiles regulate their internal chemistry by seeking specific temperatures and substrates. Even tortoises will walk into a dangerously warm area if they know it'll help digest a tough meal. The line between survival and danger. It's thinner than you think. The sailback blinks slowly and you swear it's smiling. No, that's projection. That's your cracked lips and sun-cooked brain talking. The creature's expression hasn't changed in hours, but still. You lie back on the rocks and stare at the sky. It hurts. The blue is gone pale, bleached of detail. You close your eyes. Listen. The bubbling has slowed. Not stopped, but deepened like a simmer instead of a boil. You open one eye. The sailback is lowering itself even further. The sail tilts. And now, for the first time, you hear something new. A soft pop. Then another. Air pockets, maybe? Or small gas bubbles breaking on the mud surface. Or the sound of blisters forming. You sit upright, heart thudding. The sailback doesn't react. Bullseye, dinked. It exhales again, a long, slow gust that rattles the steam. Its tail twitches once, and then the smell shifts again, sharper now. Less organic, more chemical, burning skin. You stand, instinct taking over, even though you're not sure what you're planning to do. Jump in, pull it out, yell at it. It's too late anyway. The creature lurches. Not a full-body spasm, just one shoulder, then another. It lifts itself, steaming and shining from the mud like a ship breaching a slick harbor. Mud clings to its hide, sizzling, sloughing off in wet chunks. The sail, though it's black now, not charred exactly, just darker, glossy like obsidian, thicker or just baked. You back away as it steps onto solid ground again. Every part of it smokes, but nothing's on fire. Not yet. And somehow it looks better, shinier, smoothed, almost armored. The predator from before would take one look and go, "Yeah, I'm good." You watch as the sailback shakes its head like a dog coming out of a river, flinging specks of scorched mud in every direction. You duck. It sighs again and moves forward, as if nothing happened, as if it didn't just sit in liquid punishment for 20 minutes. You glance back at the mud pool, which now bubbles more aggressively like it's offended. Then you look at the creature still steaming, still glowing, still walking, still alive. Somehow, maybe it wasn't a mistake after all. Maybe some creatures just like it hot. The smell of scorched earth clings to your nostrils as you trail the sailback across a stretch of open rock. Every few steps you slip slightly mud-slick fragments of its last self-care session still glisten on the soles of your shoes. The ground here is paler, drier, with long gouges like claw marks or the careless handwriting of tectonic plates. The sailback walks slower now, not from pain. It moves like something satisfied. Steam still curls off its back, trailing behind it like a cape. The sail is glossier than before, darker, almost regal. It no longer quivers in the wind. It holds steady, a banner made not of fabric but of intent. And then you hear them. At first they sound like chirps, sharp, erratic, and irregular. Not wind, not rock. Something chatty. You crest a small ridge and freeze. They're everywhere. Tiny feathered things scurrying in and out of shallow crevices, hopping along the rocks like caffeinated sparrows. They're not birds, not quite. Little theropods, maniraptorans, may be covered in downy fuzz and flashing iridescent blue-green feathers in the sun. Each the size of a chicken, the sass of 5. They swarm the rocks around the sailback like fans around a celebrity. Some run in tight, twitchy circles. Others peck curiously at the mud still flaking off the creature's belly. A few perch dangerously close to its sail, as if admiring their reflections in the dark surface. One boldly nips at a scale on its leg. The sailback doesn't react, not even a blink. Just keeps walking as if, surrounded by paparazzi it long ago stopped acknowledging. You wonder if they're cleaning it, picking off parasites, feeding on whatever cooked organisms died in its wake, or maybe they're just feathered rubberneckers desperate for gossip. Your odd fact of the day. Some modern birds are known to pick dead skin off rhinos and hippos not out of altruism, but for the snack value. In other words, ancient mutualism might have looked a lot like free lunch and tolerable annoyance. Historians still debate whether small theropods coexisted with sail-backed reptiles like Dimetrodon. Timeline-wise, it's improbable. But again, we're not building a documentary. We're watching a dream where epics collapse into myth. One particularly flashy individual hops up onto a boulder right beside you and tilts its head. Its eyes are bright and black and far too expressive. It chirps once loud, fast, and weirdly specific. You raise your hand slightly. I didn't do anything. It chirps again, this time longer like punctuation. Then it sprints straight at the sailback, jumps midair, and slaps one muddy foot onto the creature's flank before scrambling off again, feathers flaring in what can only be described as pride. You laugh, you can't help it. These aren't just animals, they're characters. The sailback pauses for the briefest moment. A faint twitch in one leg. You think maybe it felt that, maybe not. Then it continues forward, steam trailing like a ghost. And behind it the little feathered mob follows, hopping, chirping, pecking. Some of them dart under its belly and emerge on the other side like it's some kind of prehistoric toll gate. Others stay close to its shadow, dancing in and out like kids trying to step only on the dark parts of a sidewalk. You realize now this isn't random behavior, this is theater, and the sailback is the show. Your authoritative fact for this section: certain species of modern birds like starlings form massive coordinated flocks called murmurations, complex swirling movements that seem almost choreographed. The rules that govern those dances are still not fully understood. Maybe these prehistoric floofs had their own version. A dance around a living monument. The sun hits the sailback at a sharp angle now, and the dark sail gleams like polished obsidian. The little theropods pause in its glow. One of them lays flat against a sun-warmed rock, wings spread, chest heaving, as if mimicking the great creature in miniature. It's absurdly cute and a little eerie, because for all their antics, they're not afraid. They should be. Even if the sailback isn't a predator, it could crush one of them with a careless step. But they behave like disciples, hyperactive, snack-motivated disciples, but still. One of the bolder ones lets out a complex series of chirps, rising, falling, trilling. You swear it's trying to talk to the sailback. The others freeze. The sailback pauses, tilts its sail just slightly. The theropods erupt into a new flurry of sound. High overlapping notes, some musical, others just noise. You can't interpret it. It's chaos, but it means something. You can feel it in the air. And here's where the academia kicks in. There's been some speculation. Wild fringe speculation that feathers may have evolved first for display and communication, not flight. Bright colors, sound-reflective surfaces, dynamic movement. Language long before grammar. You stare at this exchange, one huge creature baked and bubbling under its own sail, and a crowd of feathered noisemakers orbiting it like electrons around a sunburned nucleus. And wonder, is this a gathering, a ritual, a joke? Do they know something you don't? Eventually, the sailback begins to move again, and the feathered chorus parts like waves only to close in behind it. Still chirping, still dancing. You follow from a distance now, letting the scent of scorched mud fade just slightly from your nostrils. The sound of tiny feet tapping stone and tiny voices arguing about who gets the warmest perch rises behind you. It's ridiculous. It's beautiful. It's ancient. And somehow all of it feels necessary. The terrain ahead begins to sag. It isn't a valley, not quite, but more of a bowl-shaped depression, like something massive once sat here long enough to reshape the earth. The sailback doesn't hesitate. It marches straight down into the hollow as the little feathered creatures scatter, some chirping in complaint, others disappearing entirely behind loose stone and tall ferns. You follow the air, growing heavier with each step, thick with minerals and old heat. The ground beneath your feet shifts from stone to something else, softer, brittle, dark. You kneel and press your fingers into it. Not soil, not ash. It's bone, fossilized, fragmented, warped, scattered across the basin floor like discarded puzzle pieces, too melted to reassemble. You pick up a shard, just one, and turn it in your hand. It's curved in a strange way, not clean like the textbook skeletons. There's a distortion, like someone pressed it under glass while it was still warm. The sailback steps past you and your breath catches as you realize what you're standing in. An ancient graveyard, not rows, not order, just bones, long split femurs, partial vertebrae, shattered jaws. And everywhere you look they twist, not in an artistic way, in a melted way. You know how vinyl records warp in sunlight? This looks like that, but permanent. Bodies that didn't just die here, they collapsed under heat so intense even their final shape was edited. The sailback pauses in the center of the basin. Its sail catches the sun in full, again glowing darker now like obsidian that drank too much light. You suddenly feel like you're standing in a kiln. Even the little breeze that snakes past your legs carries heat like a memory. You step around a rib cage the size of a canoe and spot a familiar shape half buried in mineral-rich sediment, another sail. But this one is snapped halfway up its curve. Not broken from impact, folded. As if the heat softened it mid-death. A spine that gave up before the rest of the body did. You look back at your sailback companion, still upright, still calm, and feel something gnaw at the edge of your thoughts. Why does it keep coming here? The creature lowers itself again, not in fear or grief, but in a kind of reverence. A ritual, maybe. You're not the only one who returns to where pain was felt deepest. Animals revisit the bones of their own kind. Elephants have graveyards. Even whales beach themselves where others once died. Maybe this is the same. Maybe it comes here to remember the cost of its own fire. Historians still debate whether these creatures or anything from this era were capable of that kind of memory, of emotional patterns. But sometimes a fossil's placement says more than its shape. Some sites contain clusters of the same species, all within feet of each other, as if they stayed even as death crept in or came back when they didn't have to. You crouch near the edge of what must have once been a watering hole. Now it's just mineral crust and a small mound of bones, some completely fused together by heat and time. You notice something peculiar. Several smaller sails almost juvenile in scale. Broken, but clustered together. You swallow. Did they follow the adult Haio here? Did they try to mimic its sun ritual? Or did they just stand too close? Here's your odd fact of the day. Birds today can suffer from something called sunstroke molt, where prolonged exposure to sunlight causes their feathers to literally fall out in chunks. Heat is a tool, but also a gamble. One too many minutes in the wrong direction and your design unravels. You sit on a rock that's far too warm and stare at the broken sails. This place isn't just a graveyard, it's a lesson. A fossilized warning etched into curvature and collapse. And yet your sailback still sits in the center. Upright. Steaming, yes, but still breathing, still existing. You think about pioneers, about firewalkers, about anyone who tries to do what others didn't survive. And maybe that's the point. Not to avoid the heat, but to master it. The little feathered creatures begin to return, stepping lightly between ribs and pebbled vertebrae. They don't chirp now. They don't peck or play. They move with caution. One even nudges a bone with its beak, then pulls back quickly. Maybe they know. You look around trying to find a pattern in the wreckage. Some bones seem posed, legs curled under as if the creature laid down to sleep. Others collapsed mid-step, jaws open in what might have been a final hiss, but all share that strange warping. A common theme: death by heat. Death by devotion to the sun. Your eyes wander again to the broken sail in front of you. A few of the vertebrae are fused. The sail itself flares slightly at the base like it swelled before it cracked. Was it sick, desperate, or just too committed? The sailback shifts and rises. Steam curls off its shoulders. Its legs wobble for just a second before stabilizing. It turns slowly, deliberately, and looks toward the edge of the basin. A path. You hadn't noticed it before, but there it is, worn stone, slightly darker, almost polished. A trail carved by repeated feet, or claws. The creature begins walking that way. You stand, your legs stiff from crouching and heat. You follow, because now it's clear, this wasn't just a stop. This was a checkpoint, a moment of memory. And it survived it, which means there's still something ahead. The path out of the bone basin isn't carved so much as pressed a low, glistening track where the earth has been repeatedly walked, weathered, maybe even polished by generations of sail-backed survivors, or mourners, or both. The sailback doesn't pause. It moves as if pulled, like it knows the next stop by heart. You follow slower than before. Not because you're tired, though you are, but because the silence has deepened. There's a kind of stillness here that feels thicker than quiet. It weighs on you. The air tastes different too. Still hot, still dry, but tinged now with something burnt. The sailback climbs a small incline where the rocks have darkened, singed at the edges, as if someone once dragged fire through here and didn't apologize. You lose your footing briefly and slide a few feet back. The ground is slippery with ancient residue ash maybe, or something much older compressed under eons. And then it hits you. A smell, not strong, just familiar. Charcoal, wet stone, a hint of something metallic. You reach the top of the ridge, breath caught in your throat, and see the creature below, finally motionless. It's lying down, but not like before. This isn't basking, this is something else. Its body is angled slightly. Limbs folded beneath, tail coiled close. Sail catching the last full weight of the afternoon sun rising like a monolith over its back. You approach slowly. One step, two, and then a sharp, acrid sting in your nose. Smoke. You don't panic, not yet. You scan the horizon. Nothing's burning. But the scent is here, stronger now, and it's not drifting in. It's coming from the sailback. Its breathing has slowed, but it's still breathing. Barely. And around the base of the sail, the air warps. You squint. There's a shimmer, not like the normal heat distortion. Something tighter, more concentrated, like the kind that dances above a candle. The sailback is hot. Not metaphorically. Not wow, that lizard looks toasty. Physically radiant. You can feel it from 10 feet away. It's giving off waves. And then you see it. A small puff of smoke curling off the edge of one vertebral spine. Just a tendril, lazy, uncertain. It curls, spirals upward, and disappears. You freeze. Is it dying? Or just shedding heat? You inch closer. Your foot brushes a patch of dirt and reveals something underneath. A perfect imprint of a sailback's sail. Not fossilized, not preserved, just scorched into the surface, like the creature once lay there long enough to burn its shape into the land. You reach down, the ground's still warm. Recently, you glance back at your sailback. Its sail quivers once, then stops. Not a twitch, a shudder, like the system has too much energy and nowhere to send it. Your odd fact of the day. Some modern reptiles can suffer from thermal inertia. Basically, they overheat and can't cool down fast enough, so their bodies keep cooking from the inside even after moving into shade. It's like a microwave that forgot to turn off. Historians still debate whether creatures like this had natural off switches for their own internal radiators. Was there a limit to how much sun they could absorb before the whole plan turned against them? You're watching that question unfold right now. The sailback's eyes are open, dull, unblinking. You can't tell if they see you. There's another puff of smoke, this time from the center of the sail. You swear you hear it, a soft hiss, like a whisper in reverse. You sit down beside the creature. Not touching, just near. It doesn't move. And suddenly, the heat feels emotional. Like grief. Like rage. Like the slow throb of a wound the earth itself can't cauterize. You think about how often people describe dying as fading as if it's gentle, poetic. But this doesn't feel like fading. This feels like burning out. There's no panic in the creature, just stillness. A thermal surrender. And here's your historical fact for the day. In Pompeii, bodies were found with bones so badly burned, scientists believe they were exposed to sudden thermal events, temperatures exceeding 500 degrees in seconds. Not fire, not lava, heat. And here you are beside a creature doing that voluntarily, or maybe inevitably. You notice something: the wind has stopped. Dead still. Even the feathered scavengers are gone now. Not a chirp, not a wing beat. You're alone, with something that might be dying. You almost whisper to it. Some human thing. Hold on, maybe. Or, it's okay. But you don't, because somehow you know it wouldn't understand, and it wouldn't care. This isn't a tragedy. This is a cycle. The sail tilts one last time, then settles. The smoke thins. The air oddly begins to cool. Not by much, but just enough to make your skin register contrast. The creature doesn't move again. You lean back, heart too full and too empty at the same time. You think maybe it's sleeping. You think maybe it's smoldering. And you honestly don't know which is worse. You stay there a while. Long enough for the sunlight to change from brutal to bearable, then from bearable to gold-edged and tired. It stretches sideways now, low in the sky, the kind of light that forgives things. Even the sailback's dark silhouette looks gentler in this hour, less like a warning, more like a story you once heard but forgot the ending to. But the heat hasn't left. You expected it to. That's what they always say about night in the desert. Hot days, cold nights, a pleasant inversion, a natural mercy. Not here. Here, the air just stops moving. The heat doesn't retreat, it hovers. You sit motionless and feel it settle into your clothes, your pores, your thoughts. Even the rocks radiate warmth like they've been taught a lesson and want to pass it on. The sailback hasn't stirred. You don't know if it is asleep or passed beyond something. You keep watching its side, the slow rise and fall of a breath. Once every minute. Maybe longer. Like it's breathing for someone else, now someone far away. And then you notice the smell of rust. Not blood, not metal, just that sharp, dry scent that says something old is waking up again, even if it shouldn't. You stand slowly. Your legs ache. You walk a few cautious steps around the sailback, half expecting it to spring up or collapse entirely. Neither happens. It's just still. Then you spot it, on the far edge of the rocks. Another shimmer, but not heat this time. Light, a flickering, inconsistent glow. Like something burning but not fire. a luminous haze. You approach carefully, slipping between boulders and spiny brush that crackle underfoot like old paper. And then you see it. The sailback's shadow. Except it's not its shadow. It's moving on its own. A perfect silhouette cast by nothing rippling along the rock wall, as if still breathing, still stretching, still basking. The creature hasn't moved, but this phantom version, it shimmers. Like residual heat is animating it long after the source has gone quiet. You reach out. Your fingers pass through nothing. Just warmth. But not the ambient kind. Directed warmth. The shadow pulses once, then fades. You turn back to the sailback, still motionless, but the heat hasn't left it. It's bleeding energy. Not fast, not violently, but steadily, like a sunlit battery in its final drain cycle. Here's your authoritative historical fact. Certain rocks can retain heat for days after being exposed to intense sunlight. They don't cool. They leak. They remain warm long into the night, influencing local microclimates. There's even a term for it, thermal lag. You realize now that's what this creature is doing. It is a landscape now, not just alive, not just animal, part of the terrain. And night. Night doesn't fix that. It just watches. Your foot slips and you catch yourself on a slanted rock that hisses beneath your touch. Not from your weight, but from the contact. The rock is still hot. You pull your hand back and stare at your reddening palm. Then you laugh. Cool night air, you mutter. Sure, a breeze comes. You don't welcome it. Because it's not cold. It's not even comforting. It's still hot. Just more subtle about it. A gentler oppression. Like an apology whispered too late. Your odd fact of the day. Some insects can survive in environments over 120 degrees by simply moving less, slowing their metabolism to the bare minimum. They don't resist the heat. They become part of it. Adaptation by surrender. The sailback has done the same. It hasn't fled. It hasn't fought. It has just allowed itself to hold the heat, even now in darkness. You sit beside it again. The rocks here are too warm to be comfortable, but you stay anyway. The stars blink on above you, soft and scattered. You can hear distant night insects, their calls thin and metallic. Nothing too excited. Just enough to say the world's still spinning. The sailback's sail, its great black ridged crown, still glows faintly. Not light, not fire. Just a presence. Like it's been soaked in sun too long and doesn't remember how to cool. And yet it breathes. One long inhale, one long exhale. Like the planet itself exhaling through old lungs. Historians still debate whether prehistoric nights were actually cool in these climates. Some evidence suggests they remained brutally warm, especially near volcanic zones or mineral-heavy plains. Nights that didn't soothe but merely paused the suffering. This feels like that. You lean your head back and close your eyes and hear the rocks whisper. Not real whispers, just the sound of heat leaving. Slowly, unevenly, like the land isn't done holding you hostage. You open your eyes. The sailback blinks. Once. You exhale too, because something tells you it's going to survive this. Maybe not because it wants to. Maybe just because it knows how. And for now, that's enough. The stars hang like dust caught in resin, motionless and ancient. Overhead, a bright smear of sky shimmers faintly, the Milky Way younger and less defined than the one you know, still pulling itself into shape. Beneath it, the world hasn't cooled. It's just gone quiet about its heat. You shift on the rock, now merely warm instead of scalding. Your back aches. Your skin itches where salt has dried into tight, salty maps. But beside you, the sailback is still, not gone, not recovered, just enduring. Then, you notice something else. The air around its sail isn't just warm anymore, it's glowing. Not bright, not fire, nothing you'd call light if you were trying to be scientific, but unmistakably there. A soft red-orange halo, like iron just past molten. Faint enough you wonder if your eyes are lying to you. You reach out and instantly regret it. The heat wraps around your fingers like breath from a furnace. You yank your hand back, skin tingling, not burned, but warned. The creature didn't move, but the heat did. This sail, this black towering solar crown, is radiating. Not like a rock that's been sun-soaked. More like a living thing that doesn't know how to give its fire away slowly. You sit back, rubbing your fingers, watching the glow as it pulses faintly. Not steady, more like a heartbeat with arrhythmia. Here's your odd fact of the night. Certain rocks on Earth today contain naturally radioactive minerals. Nothing dangerous, unless you're very committed but enough that they emit their own heat. The glow you see sometimes in old cave walls? That's real. Nature doesn't always wait for fire. You glance at the sailback again. Maybe it's not just glowing, maybe it's releasing. Maybe everything it took in today, the sun, the steam, the stares from 1,000 curious feathered things is leaking back out. You think about how the human body radiates heat at night, how even in sleep your skin whispers warmth into the mattress. This creature is doing the same but louder, not a whisper. A quiet speech. You step back, your boots crunching softly on the crystalline dirt. And that's when you notice the rocks are glowing too. Only slightly. But near the base of the creature where the sail has hovered for hours, the stone shimmers like it's been infused with something. Not just heat, memory. The sailback turns its head, slowly, eyes like old glass. They meet yours but don't see you. Not like a predator, not like prey, like something passing. Historians still debate whether extinct species could use infrared light or detect heat signatures as part of their perception. Some reptiles today, like pit vipers, have heat-sensing organs that can see warmth like we see brightness. Maybe this sail was both shield and sensor, a solar panel and an eye. You feel exposed now, not because you're watched, but because you're radiating too. The sailback doesn't care what you are, it just knows you're warmer than the night, and that might be enough to matter. A breeze picks up, finally, and it's cold. Not freezing, not sharp, but real. A ribbon of night air that snakes across the basin and wraps around your ankles like the breath of a sleeping forest. The sailback flinches, just once, and the glow dims. Not dies, just contracts. You watch as the creature shifts its weight slightly, muscles rippling under scales gone dull with ash and mud. The steam is gone now. Only dry heat remains. It moves barely, but the effort is visible. You see it in the long rise of its shoulder, the slight flex of its sail, and then you hear it. A sound like paper folding or dry reeds brushing together. The sailback is adjusting, not its position, its temperature. You realize this isn't just thermoregulation, it's self-control. You almost laugh. All day this creature has been absorbing heat like a fool sunbather who fell asleep on a beach towel, and now it's trying to shed that warmth carefully, without cracking. Your authoritative fact for the evening: desert lizards use thermal windows in their skin-thin areas that allow heat to escape more easily. Some open blood vessels near the surface to cool faster. Others flatten their bodies to radiate more heat away. The sailback's sail is not a decoration. It's a furnace and a vent, and maybe a language you'll never understand. It curls its tail slightly. A full-body tremor passes through it like a shiver, but in reverse. A motion that says cool now, not later. And the glow around it slowly fades. You feel the air shift with it. Your own skin cools just a fraction. Enough that the dust no longer sticks. Enough that you can breathe through your nose without it feeling like steam. The stars look clearer now. Not because the sky changed, but because you did. You're cooling too. The creature lowers its head, tucks its forelimbs beneath its bulk, and settles. Not in pain, not in glory, just in peace. It radiated all day. Now it hums. And tomorrow, it will rise again. Because that's what it does. It isn't a hunter. It isn't a killer. It's a survivor who never runs. And now you know why. Somewhere in the distance, the night rumbles. Not thunder exactly, too low, too slow. The sound creeps over the land like a slow-moving wall, a reminder that the heat of the day might fade, but it never leaves peacefully. You sit up straighter. There's a scent carried on the wind now. Wet, sharp, foreign. Rain, but not the kind that brings relief. The sailback hasn't moved, not even its sail. Still curled into its own heat like a sleeping coal, the last smoldering ember of a fire you didn't light but now feel responsible for. You glance up. The stars are fading. Clouds are rolling in, not fast, not dramatic, but steady, like a curtain being pulled across the stage. This isn't a storm you see. It's a storm you feel first. The first drop hits your arm. You flinch expecting coolness, but instead, it burns. Tiny, scalding, like someone dropped soldering iron drips onto your skin. Another, then two more. The sky exhales, and the rain begins. Not in sheets, in needles. Each drop hits the superheated stone with a high-pitched hiss, vanishing into vapor before it can even puddle. It doesn't fall, it attacks. The ground steams. The air becomes soup. You scramble to your feet, not to flee, just instinct. Your lizard brain has opinions, and none of them are calm. The sailback lifts its head, slowly. Rain drums across its sail, not a patter but a sizzle. You wince at the sound. It's not dying, but it's not ignoring it either. The water slides down the sail's ridges and hits the already overheated hide with audible pops. You can smell it now. Steam, mud, skin. Like an old grill meeting its first clean in years. And still it doesn't rise. It just absorbs. One drop at a time. You shout something meaningless noise, half warning, half apology, but your voice disappears into the rain like chalk on a wet sidewalk. The creature blinks once. Its eye gleams not with light but with heat reflecting the droplets that vanish before they can drip. And now steam begins to rise. From the sail. From its shoulders. From the earth around it. You step back again as visibility shrinks. The steam clogs your lungs, clings to your skin, blinds your eyes. You hear a new sound. Not water on stone, but crackling. Not fire, but close. Your odd fact of the night: volcanic rock can become so hot that sudden rain causes it to crack and hiss violently. Not because of magic, but because the temperature difference is too much too fast. Thermal shock. Nature's version of a panic attack. The sailback begins to move. Not fast, not desperate. Just controlled. It rises in the mist like a god returning from exile. The sail is drenched now, at least as drenched as something can be when every drop evaporates on contact. And somehow, impossibly, it glows again. Not with light, with steam. A crown of mist radiating upward, each droplet dancing before death. The creature becomes a monument in reverse, erasing heat through pain, trading fire for fog. And here's your historical insight. Fossil records show some prehistoric species adapted to intense environmental swings. Dry to flood, heat to cold. Some even suggest early reptiles could alter their metabolic response, based on seasonal changes, a kind of internal thermostat with a prehistoric user interface. You realize now, this isn't suffering. This is strategy. Let the sun cook you. Let the rain strip you clean. A reset. The sailback walks forward. Steam coils around its limbs. The ground hisses where it steps. The rain doesn't relent, it fights. But it can't win, not here. You trail behind at a distance, now soaked in sweat and steam, and a rain that doesn't comfort. The sky has lost its stars. The wind is back, but it's wet now. Not soothing, just loud. The sailback passes through a narrow cleft of rock, leaving twin streaks of moisture in the dust. You reach it, panting every breath like soup. You look back one more time. The basin is hidden by steam, bones, mud, fossil-shaped memories all gone. Only heat remains, and the rain. Rain that burns, not so gently. You emerge from the narrow rock passage, gasping like you've breached the surface of some prehistoric ocean. The rain has slowed, but not out of mercy. It's just getting smarter. Less volume, more persistence. A stubborn drizzle that seeps into your clothes and sits there simmering in the heat that still radiates off the land like resentment. Ahead, the sailback keeps moving. Steam no longer rises in great dramatic clouds. Now it's subtle, thin wisps trailing from its shoulders, the way a cooling iron breathes as it dies. Its sail is soaked dark as tar, its ridges lined with droplets that don't fall but instead dissolve. One blink and they're gone, absorbed, or erased. You think the worst is over, and then you find the bones. Not just one, not scattered, a line, long, crooked, half buried in the brittle earth like a procession of mistakes. Some are snapped, others bowed in unnatural ways, and all of them warp upward toward where the sail would have been. You crouch beside one vertebral spine. Run your hand along the curve. It bends not like a break but like it once softened. You can see it, feel it, as though heat once soaked into this body so deep the bones gave up trying to hold their shape. You touch the surface. It's not smooth. It's glassy. Your breath catches. Here's your authoritative fact in extreme geologic conditions. Bones can become partially vitrified, glassy, through exposure to high heat and mineral saturation. It's rare, but it happens. Not cremation, not fossilization. Cooking. You look around again. There are dozens. Some full skeletons curved and collapsed. Some just sail spines warped and twisted like burned branches. It's not just a fossil site. It's a heat grave. You call out, but your voice dies halfway through the steam. The sailback is ahead now, still walking, still choosing this path on purpose. Not out of confusion, out of habit. You kneel beside the next skeleton. Smaller, not a juvenile, just defeated earlier. It lies twisted under a rock overhang as if it crawled there when it was too late. And near it, another one, curled into the dust like it fell asleep mid-sentence. A third is pressed into the side of a boulder, fused even. Its sail leaves a faint imprint, a halo of cooled mineral where it leaned in and stayed too long. Your hands shake a little, not from fear, from recognition. This is what happens when you fly too close to the sun but on foot. And they didn't fall all at once. This was one at a time. You stumble forward, shoes crunching on brittle earth that cracks like old pottery. Each step now feels like walking through a church with the roof gone and nothing but bones for pews. And then something newer. A skeleton still partially fleshed, not much. Just leathery strands clinging to the sail, but it's fresh, not dead hours ago. Maybe days, maybe less. And now the air turns on you again. The smell. It's not rotting. It's baked. Burnt protein. Like someone cooked it halfway through and forgot to finish. You gag and turn away, and suddenly the sailback stops, just ahead at the far edge of the grave path. It looks back over its shoulder, right at you. It doesn't blink, but you feel the eye contact. And for the first time, it feels like the question has shifted. It's not, will this creature survive? It's, why does it keep coming back? And you realize this isn't migration. It's memory. You get your odd fact of the day. Elephants have been recorded revisiting the bones of their dead, touching them gently with trunks circling them quiet. Not feeding, not nesting, just remembering. Maybe this is the same. The sailback doesn't mourn loudly. It just walks the line, bone by bone, heat ruined failure by failure. And still it walks. Maybe it remembers them. Maybe it learns from them. Historians still debate whether behavior can be passed through instinct alone, whether patterns like this are memory or just chemical echoes burned into the bloodline. But if this isn't memory, it sure looks like it. The sailback turns again, moves off the bone path and climbs a small ridge. You follow because there's nowhere else to go. And from the top you look back. The bones don't form a trail. They form a loop. You see it now. A winding spiral of fossilized heat victims all circling the center where the rock is smooth and dark. Where the first one must have fallen, where the myth began. You turn back to the sailback. It stands on the edge of the ridge sail, wide rain dwindling, looking at the horizon like it expects something. Maybe sun, maybe more bones, maybe nothing at all. But you realize something. It chose to survive. Not by running, not by hiding, by walking through the furnace again and again until it could come out the other side. The horizon is soft now. That strange, bruised, pre-dawn color somewhere between peach and iron. The rain has ended, retreated without apology, leaving behind a ground too hot to puddle. Instead, the moisture lifts slowly from every surface, a mist of ghosts rising from rock and bone and memory. You stand beside the sailback, both of you facing the same way. It hasn't moved for some time. Just stands there, sail upright, like a weather vane for grief or a lightning rod waiting for the sun's return. You almost ask it what it's looking for, but it doesn't speak, it just waits. You lower yourself onto a flat slab of stone, still warm to the touch. You've lost track of the hours. Maybe the days. The only rhythm you've known is breath and footfall, heat and steam, bone and smoke. Time stopped mattering when the light started cooking the truth into everything. Below you, the loop of skeletons still gleams faintly. Not in a shiny way, just in a final way. Their warped forms are outlines of choices, of things that thought they could take the heat but couldn't quite walk out the other side. The sailback lifts its head, sniffs the air. Something has changed. You notice it too. The wind. It's not hot. It's not cold. It's clean. It moves across the ground, gently lifting small curls of dust from the scorched earth, peeling back the top layer of what the day had burned in. It brushes your skin and doesn't hurt. You look up. The clouds are gone. The sky has been wiped clear, and the first light appears not over the ridge but through it. The glow before the sun rises. Not heat yet, just the promise of it. The sailback reacts. It steps forward, slow, measured, deliberate. Its sail shifts subtly to meet the light just like it did that morning. That first morning. As though no time had passed. As though everything in between, the predators, the boiling mud, the gossiping feathered crew, the bones and steam and melting rain, was simply a pause. This is the return. It's not dramatic. It's earned. You watch the sail catch that first light, and this time it doesn't shimmer with pain. It doesn't steam. It glows. Warm, steady, almost soft. The creature inhales. A deep, patient breath. You take one too. And for the first time, you don't feel like an outsider. You feel like part of the ritual. You feel like maybe, just maybe, you understand. Because it was never just about surviving the heat. It was about carrying it. Not running from the fire. Becoming the fire. Long enough to teach others what it costs. You take one last look at the fossil loop. At the shimmering air rising from it. At the place where memory lives in glass and ash. Then you rise and walk. The sailback leads you again towards something not cooler, not safer, but possible. Because now you know it can be survived. It just costs everything warm. In this journey through a scorched and unrelenting landscape, you walk alongside a creature that seems to belong more to the sun than the soil. A sailback, possibly a Dimetrodon, whose great sail is both burden and blessing. From the moment it rises to meet the morning light, you realize its life is not dictated by predators or terrain, but by heat itself. Across cracked valleys, boiling mud pits, whispering wind, and scorching rains, it offers no fear, no hurry, only quiet mastery. You witness how this creature doesn't fight the sun. It forms an uneasy alliance with it, soaking in the fire to survive the cold indifference of prehistoric nights. You see how others, curious, feathered onlookers, clever predators, even distant plated giants, treat it with something between caution and reverence. You watch it sit among the dead, among bones twisted by heat and time, and you understand it isn't wandering aimlessly. It's walking a loop, a path through memory loss and evolution, and somehow it keeps coming out the other side. Because surviving the sun doesn't mean you beat it. It means you let it reshape you until you no longer fear the fire. You walk away not cooler, not smarter, not transformed, but humbled. And in your own way, just a little bit cooked.